All right. So, Internet 2.0 is the human-centric internet. And the key problem here is that we scaled networks and we forgot people. Um, it's really easy to connect a whole bunch of different people and let them communicate. But when we actually have to start factoring in what happens to the people who use our networks, things get a little trickier. Um, and we've forgotten about that in terms of the internet. So let's go ahead and bring that back. And so the internet was meant to be local, known users, shared context, physical trust. It started off as an experiment in a lab, and then we went, cool, let's just connect it to everybody and then see what happens. Um, and that wasn't great because basically the economy can't support tech scale. And so what happens is tech can expand infinitely because it's digital. It doesn't take up physical space. It doesn't have the same physical limitations. Now, it does have different limitations, and we'll talk about that later, specifically related to the amount of complexity that it can support. But basically, we have tech expanding exponentially and unconstrained, and human systems didn't, they just kind of broke. And so we've been financing the present by borrowing from the future. And frankly, it's not a future that everybody gets access to, and I'm kind of tired of that. And so I grew up in the wrong internet, right? I was connected to everybody, but like I didn't have a spot of my own. I'm unrooted, right? And I'm trying to make these predictions about how the internet is going based on what I'm seeing, and there's just so much noise. I end up seeming like I'm schizophrenic because I'm picking up on patterns that exist, and in typical situations, the patterns I've seen would be right. But because of the nature of change inside of this crazy internet system we've created, basically nothing is predictable because everybody has to develop their own systems instead of doing what is kind of the natural relationship focused uh, things. And so what we did is we compressed human time into machine time. And so, machines got better and better, more precise. And humans have no idea what the fuck is going on because we lost meaning, right? Optimization ate meaning. People are doing work, but not knowing what that work is about. And one of the things that I've realized is we talk a lot about knowledge work, and knowledge work is not a thing. Consciousness work is. And so basically, groups of people hold shared consciousness over a problem state and use that shared consciousness in conjunction with the technology at their disposal in order to solve human problems. And what we've got these systems that are driven by money, basically pulling us into speeds that are not human sustainable. And it's fine when you're just burning people out in the system and replacing them with the next one up. But we've gotten to a point where the economy just isn't stable. We have all these companies firing people and like replacing them with AI, only to come back and say, actually, need you to come back to work because it turns out all these AI promises we got are all bullshit. And we have this economy that's just built on a throne of lies because there is no way to actually achieve the future state that they're raising shit tons of money for. And so we're headed toward this huge crash because it's just not real. And so the internet has no human memory. Like there's no stable identity. Nobody knows where anything came from. Nobody's accountable. There's only behavior that we're trying to understand, like no origin. And that brings us to the idea of human origin reinforcement data. And so in the whole world of AI, you've got what's called reinforcement learning. And basically, the idea is if you give a computer, a way to output data, and you put these outputs in front of a bunch of humans, and they go, yes, yes, no, yes. Basically, you can use this as reinforcement to build a better system. And this is what we're doing, but we're scraping these yeses based off of our behaviors. And so, we're trying to say, oh, well, when you like and retweet and do this, like there's this weighted score that determines. No, that's all fucking bullshit because you're trying to make these. horribly complex relationships and structure them into this like really thin data wrapper. And so um with this I decided to flip the script. And so what I want to do is I need to capture the structure of the data and like who is responsible for that data? What context does it occur in? Who's actually consenting here? And like, what is the structure of it? And this is actually really important because it gives us like a unit of data that we can actually track through the internet, and we can break it up and divide it, and we can do all of these really cool things while keeping track of who gets credit for creating that data and who's responsible for it. Um, we need systems that are responsible. And by trying to move so quickly, we're trying to outrun responsibility by not paying attention to the downstream effects. You know, ChatGPT is having users that engage with ChatGPT and then kill themselves because the AIs that they deployed were just self-reinforcing someone's internal state. And so to ChatGPT, they're a number. In Internet 2.0, they're a human, and you're going to be able to see how the human changes over time. And they'll be able to see how they change over time. And they'll actually get paid for the data that they create that gets used downstream in the economy. And this is the whole idea behind the Yes Pen. And the Yes Pen I do currently have available for pre-sale. If you check out my meta label for Idea Nexus Ventures, you can grab it there. And so basically, what Internet 2.0 is, it's a transporter from Star Trek, if you remember. So basically, in the transporter, you stand on a pad, and then you go, and there's this cool sound, and that was a terrible reenactment of it. But basically, you end up, um, you know, vaporizing yourself in one place and then showing up in a completely different place, exactly the same. Now, when we think of the internet, when you put data in, it doesn't come out the other side the same. You put it into a website, and then it gets converted into some sort of probably JSON object, and then it goes to a server, and then it's broken up and stored. And right, and so you can't get that same piece of input back out, really. Like it's just not designed for that. And this is the fundamental break in the early internet, Internet v1. And so, um, what we want to do is we want to get a full signal, right? So this entirely context wrapped thing. And then we want to remember that and like uh, hold it for accountability, because then it's like that same signal can be um, rematerialized anywhere else in the system. And so what we do with this is then we can create conscious competition. So we get credit, accountability, and reproducibility. And these are the three core factors to markets that work, because you need to make sure that the right people are getting credit. You've got to make sure that if you're getting a credit, you're also being accountable. Like that, there are two sides of the same coin. You can't get a bunch of credit without the accountability, because that's how we get to where we are now. And most importantly, reproducibility. The market needs to be able to learn from what you're doing. This means we need to be more and more transparent as we move faster. And this is something that markets haven't quite figured out yet. They're still trying to hold out on these information asymmetries that are really, really inefficient in a rapidly evolving economic environment. And so, one of the things in Internet 2.0 is that it lets your identity stabilize. And this is something that I didn't quite realize from within it. But basically, with the internet, we have truly fragmented our identities, and we are different people in different places online and in person because of that. And so with Internet 2.0, the whole thing is actually all about creating a coherent identity that the internet can rely on. Because in the economy, you are most valuable when you are predictable, in the sense that you're able to like recreate the same things. And again, I guess this idea of reproducibility, right? Well, my predictions stabilize when my identity does. I never learned how to make accurate predictions about what I can do in what time because basically I had always managed to learn fast enough to not have to actually make accurate predictions. I could just teach myself what I wanted to know in the moment without actually having to predict how long something would take me. And it was kind of a game I played with myself because the rest of the world moves slower around me. What I realized is this was actually a sign that I wasn't in the right types of networks. I wasn't with people who were challenging me enough. And so I was having to challenge myself with these different games. And so I'm playing all sorts of games that I don't understand, and I'm just trying to like figure out how the fuck my brain works. And um, this is what I call a state of hyper competition, where basically you're playing all sorts of games. You can see some of them, but you don't actually know what the outcomes are because you don't know what games you're playing or how they overlap, and it gets really weird inside this state of hyper competition. Um, and so what we're going to do is we're actually going to create just an entirely new economic layer where we focus on alignment over optimization and meaning over scale. Because this is infrastructure, okay? We're not building a product here. We're actually building out the entire infrastructure for Internet 2.0. And this is something that I've had a hard time conveying to people. And so what I've decided to do is I was initially going to raise on like a kind of a startup level, a couple million pre-seed, try to get it to something. No, we're in this case, I realize I just need to build out the infrastructure, so I need to raise an ecosystem. My goal currently is to raise between 50 and 100 million because basically I want to make sure we have the protocol, I want to develop a core team, and I want to do public pilots. Now, the core team is actually going to be interesting because yes, I want to raise and like hire, but I actually think there's a different opportunity here to have people pay me to work for them. And this is kind of a cool idea. But what I want to do is I actually want to assemble a team of Avengers for next year. And what I want to do is I want to train people to be as fast as me and as good as me at building these conscious systems. And so I'm spending this month recruiting. I want 10 people to work with me for the year. And in doing so, they are going to learn how to be great. This has been my focus. Where does greatness come from? Greatness is an individual thing, internal, but it is contagious. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you get other people to hold themselves to higher standards. And so, what I want to do is I want to create a group of basically the Navy SEALs of systems. And I want to create a team that can go in, quickly educate a network about what all the problems are that we're able to see, get started on a project that starts eliminating them on a small scale to prove their effectiveness, and then scales it out through the entire organization. And so these are going to be my Meta SPN athletes. And we're going to have a public performance of how we do this because I want it to be transparent, measurable, and fast. And so instead of trying to hire, I'm going to find people who have the money and want to work with me. And so I want 10 people to be just with me for the year. And so this is I'm basically setting it up as a fellowship for 25K to kind of cover all of the logistics and coaching and everything that I'll be doing there. Um, and they will be part of the team for a year. And then the other half of the team, 10 people, I want to rotate out quarterly. And so I want these to be people who are currently in high level positions in larger companies. And I want the companies to pay me 100 grand to basically stick them on my team. They're going to have a line into the corporate systems they're from, and we're going to have that direct line of communication. And so what we're going to do is we're going to track how quickly I can use this team to kind of measure, plan, attack, evaluate a given portion of a company and see how much better I can make it in terms of both qualitative and quantitative measurements. And so, as I'm getting ready to head out to SF to kind of kick off this fundraise, I'm also recruiting people from these types of companies who want to actually see how quickly we can go make a meaningful difference in the world, beyond just money, because it's not really money that changes the world, it is people. But we can be a lot better at using people to deploy money effectively and consciously. Um, and like I have lived this failure personally. Like, I've never been aligned with the economy. I've always been out of it. I've been, um, I went through college, but like college didn't do anything for me except kind of point me in the direction of what to learn, put me around a bunch of people that I wasn't very good at interacting with. So I spent a lot of time online. And it's been so hard for me to actually like predict what the economy is doing. And I'm supposedly smart. And so this is supposed to be easy. I'm in a position in the economy where I shouldn't be able to be in. And yet here I sit. And it's because we've created an environment that just has no idea about the people living in it. It's got all of the data and knows nothing. And so Internet 1.0 is all about scale, growth, extraction. Internet 2.0 is integrity, agency, identity. So I'm offering the world a choice. Choose your substrate. Choose wisely. 2026 is going to run on different logic. We tried scale. We need coherence. Internet 2.0 puts human back into computation.